are there observations that you had in this moment, or is there any observations you had this week that kind of seemed interesting to you? Just, I mean, it could be anything really.
I like the basics of or a baby when you say, "Where's your nose? Where's your ears?" Where's your mouth, and you point to their mouth, and they're starting to learn it. How their awareness is shifting, and it also gets the baby tired later if they do enough of it, and it also connects them with their primary consciousness, with their tactical senses a lot more than their secondary, of course. So this reminded me of that for some reason. I never thought about relating this with the baby as well. When you're like, pay attention to your feet, shift to your feet, your awareness, and then instant it's to your feet, of course, and then when you move around or to the headspace, I thought about being a baby in these moments and how a baby feels during those observations as well. When the mother or the father is like, "Where's your nose?" Imagine how much they can feel and shift their awareness there as a child, as all this information is streaming in for an adult. And then when you compare yourself to a baby, that's a meditative state that parents do with their children as well when they're awake and subconsciously there. So
Yeah, because kids are highly attentive, and they have that sensitivity already. That they have that awareness and sensitivity like heightened, and then that kind of thing gets dulled over time. Like some people can't even like bring their attention to their feet.
right,
Like they don't even know what that is, right? So it's
exactly. And some people can't even crawl like they could when they were a baby, and they lost contact with those muscles. And same thing with shifting their awareness and tactical spots of the body. So these are very important fundamentals that should be done on even a nonchalantly daily basis, or like you're saying, we just took 10 minutes to do that there, and it definitely resets us in such a way to be focused in a live conversation where we can have everything flowing like an ecosystem.
yeah. So like that attentiveness, by the way, is also what's mentioned. I mean that verse where it's like watch and pray lest you fall into temptation, and that's the whole mastering the watchfulness part, because it's actually a skill to be able to keep alert and watchful like that. Like it's a skill. Every time you go into a room, you can practice it. Every time I mean, even right now we can practice it. You know what I mean? Or when you're doing your homework, you can watch it or practice that. Because you always have to be attentive to every single detail and master that skill of being attentive. In a relationship, you practice. It's like anything you can apply attentiveness to and watchfulness to. So it's always a skill to harness.
Very important. Where attention goes, energy follows. And are we putting it more on a tense state or a relaxed state? And what are the benefits of both? What are the proportions and how we operate? So, as you're saying, even now in prayer or now in meditation, while we're speaking, also be in meditation. After we opened our eyes, we continued our meditation still. It's just we're using our consciousness more to look, so our attention's going there in the external with images. Our sensories more connected as well, and engaging like that. But we can still work on keeping that fire lit and our focus there. It's so true.
Yeah.
Even as you're about to speak, I return more because I'm silent now, and it could be even greater for me. And then switching. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We got a Donna that says here, so she's in the background. Yeah, what's up?
Hey
What's
Donna, you look younger and wiser.
up? Exactly. So I'm glad you're here. And yeah, I mean that's one of the things too that's part of self-trust, right? Is that you can observe what's going on inside of yourself
Yes.
and trust the information that you're receiving. But also that requires discernment too, right? Where it's like you're going to be constantly in life, you're going to be constantly bombarded with external things entering into your mind. And for you to be able to process through all of that and be selective about what's really coming through on a deeper level, I mean, that's like, it gets deep because a lot of things can influence you. A lot of things can move you off of your center of watchfulness, right? Like you could say
Yeah.
the throne that's inside of you. So you're going to say something or?
Absolutely. It reminded me, you know how people usually say your body is like a car and how you take care of it? We've heard that many times. And these newer cars have these sensors on them. So whenever we don't go inside and see what's going on with the sensors, when we have our car or our body subconsciously on autopilot, it's important that those sensors are on peak, and on cue, because we think that we're conscious when we're really subconscious on automatic programs. But when we're very sensitive and intuitive like that and having these daily practices, because of course spirituality is a practice, it's a daily lifestyle. And same thing with our metaphysical conversations, we got to be on point, Ezekiel and I both, because we're very intuitive people. We have a lot of information to share and we're generous about it. And we hold ourselves accountable to what we bring to the table and share as well.
Yeah, you have to, because I mean, part of also watchfulness too, right? I
It
say
is.
my words and I'm aware of what I'm saying and how I'm saying it, who I'm saying it to. So everything's kind of context, you know? And
It is.
if you know what you're saying, how you're saying it, who you're saying it to, then you can also pay attention to shifts in like, different shifts when you say a word, or, if you're talking to an audience, you can like see how things change, and, you can play with your words a little bit,
Exactly. You can see the quote unquote body language of the words.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like dogs, like you see one of my posts, my dog video, dogs really read body language a lot. And the way and the manner that you say it, is it in the fruits of the spirit, as was said, or is it in, the works of the quote unquote flesh? But yeah, the way and the manner that we bring something to the table, it can be felt and seen by all creatures and delivered and interpreted in different ways.
Yeah, yeah. Animals are actually quite sensitive, like, and you can, yeah, a lot of them, and they're, because if you pay attention, right, and you know that animals are sentient,
Yeah,
attention is sentience.
it is.
So the fact that you're sentient right now, I mean, it means that you're attentive.
It
And
does.
animals have a different quality of sentience, if you will, and it's an energetic quality that you sense, and their sentient quality can obviously intermingle with yours, and it's kind of in silence that this kind of exchange can start to happen, and then they'll lock onto your body, scan you out, lock onto your body, that's what a predator would do anyways. They have those eyes where they're looking at you, looking for a weakness, or looking that you turn your back, stuff like that. So body language is also something in nature. It's something in nature that also is always there too, right? So
It is.
paying attention to body language is important.
And same thing with like aerokinesis or kinetic abilities, or even body language. We're going like this. We don't want to let nobody in, and yet we can also stop the wind from coming in with magnetism when we're reading our own body language like this, or like an orchestra or anything. We're bringing it down, and it'll start to go down as well. Or we can compress molecules, but it's all body language. Same stuff.
Yeah, and then Donna says, "I'm here listening." Yeah, I love your hat, Nico. Yeah, show us your hat and shoes.
Thank you very much. I have my military pins on them, and I'm using it for my dog training business for Dr. Wolf. And with it is logistics, because I'm also transporting animals. I have other credentials over here. I just put my office in. I haven't even put them up yet. FEMA and certified dog CPR instructor myself, and all the rest, and also dog nutritionist, trained service dogs as well. And I have the biggest dogs out, Axeray Molecules. Some are 7'6" on their hind legs, of one of my fathers of my dogs, up to 300 pounds, bite harder than a lion, about 100 pounds of pressure. I have the Turkish Congos as well. So the hat has to do with the dog world, is what I use it for, in the military pins as well, because I
Yeah,
military style and boot camp with the dogs in a loving manner.
and then it
Because
says, as with children, they mainly learn through nonverbal communication for the first 12 to 4 months. That's an interesting point, going back to the childlike nature, right? Do you have any thoughts on that? Or maybe that period right there?
absolutely, um, I've taken nonverbal hypnosis courses from Marco Parrott. That one helped me out a lot with the dog training that was on there. And he gave a lot of, there was a lot of mini dog courses on there for nonverbal hypnosis that worked wonders and opened my eyes on another side of nonverbal. Uh, Anna Brettenbach, that lady that calls a spirit animal, where she works with leopard and the different animal communication she does. It's very incredible that she uses nonverbal. She even went to a place to remind me the story of the Bible with Jesus when they couldn't go fishing and get any fish. And she goes to this water, opens her hands up, and all these fishes start coming towards her right in her arms and tons of stuff like that, but all using nonverbal communication as of babies themselves from the womb all the way through. And dogs.
Yeah, and yeah. Or you're gonna say something?
Yeah, and dogs read that in children as well. They see it.
Yeah, because I mean, you kind of have to be able, when someone expresses body language, there's a certain emotion that's pushing them to like move or react. So if you're not even aware of the first emotion that like moves you, like maybe you say something that's shocking to me, and then I'm not aware of, like, I'm not aware of you, that I'm not aware that you're about to say it. And since I'm not aware, boom, like you get the shock and you get hit back in a way. So,
Absolutely.
I think it's my mic thing. So I might come in a little bit clearer, but
Perfect. Yep.
yeah,
And
so
get revelations as well when they hear a philosophy that hits their head sideways. It's like, bam, they never heard it like that before. It inspires them and motivates them, that push to keep going once it's felt
yeah.
like.
And just a little side context though, for people that don't know about Nico. Again, we've done an episode together, and also he's a mystic and he specializes in the spiritual abilities. And I think you're very inspired by quantum mechanics, right, or quantum physics, and that's helped you also learn a little bit about how to do spiritual abilities. And you're a practitioner that has that is pushing the boundaries of what's possible for people. So if you also
Absolutely.
want to maybe a little bit of input of like what you do too, because I know some people are gonna be like, you talked about aerokinesis, and I know that some people will probably be like, aerokinesis, like who's this guy, or like what is, or
Yeah,
what is he talking about? So
definitely. They probably can see by the elements on the hands as well. Maybe here and there with the lighting, but yes, absolutely. Metaphysical abilities, and like you were using the word emotions earlier, people has heard it as energy and motion, and that energy emotions only a pushing emotion as a pushing, because the energy emotion has a counterclockwise rotation, pushing effect, and then you have feelings. There's, which is a clockwise rotation of how I build up a currency for metaphysical abilities. Having enough energy to do a certain metaphysical ability as well is crucial and key. So, yep, my background, as Ezekiel was saying earlier, uh, as people will call airbending, aerokinesis, and we know a lot of the mentors and teachers, a lot of the same people that we know, we podcasted, we met up with, and everything else, and we took things just like Bruce Lee says, to make it your own, take what's useful and reject what's not, and make it essentially your own. So I really like Bruce Lee and learned from him a lot. Also, my background in quantum mechanics, I've taken things a lot more further than professors in the quantum field by a long shot. Um, so those topics there, they go above and beyond, as we're speaking about. From people's current understanding in quantum mechanics, when we speak of the subject of the double slit experiment, I always hear a misunderstanding on this so often, and there's never a foundation that's also set. I've been on a lot of TikTok lives about it, and breaking the foundation is very clear this way. So, of course, we know the basic principle: where attention goes, energy follows, of course. And the way and the manner is a conversation we were just speaking of. The way and the manner that you perceive something, perception can change things. For example, on our Zooms, we do water to wine, water to lemonade, water to orange juice in person, over the Zooms remote, as people use the word impartation or quantum entanglement. We can use that. So there's electrons. Nothing's new under the sun. It's a counterclockwise rotation of particles. But you can take that same electron, which we know in quantum mechanics, it exists as a superposition state, which means that it exists as a particle and it also exists as a wave. Now, with the double slit experiment in quantum mechanics, they speak about the wave, and it's called the wave of potentiality. And they're saying that when there's an observer present, that the observer or the camera collapses the waves when there's attention put on it or when it's observed, right? But there's a way that it could be observed, not through a mechanical means, or not through an observer that has a carnal perspective or materialistic perspective, or an observer that thinks themselves are consciousness. Whenever you perceive something like the light, for example, everything's made out of the light. Trees are sentient beings, it's made out of light. The electrons that are in the air, this telephone and everything that we're speaking through right now, you can observe something, which I'm going to do a demonstration with those. I can do one earlier towards the end as well with the same demonstration. So dust that's in the air, it's decaying and it has a counterclockwise rotation, but we could change that same dust and have a clockwise rotation, which stretches that same electron that's made out of light into a wave, and it goes as far as it can go, that same one electron, when it's being observed from someone with a clockwise rotation of perception. And all that means, instead of using emotion with counterclockwise emotions, counterclockwise energy, emotion, chemical reactions of the brains, all that particles and everything, right? Chemistry. We're going to use feelings, which have a clockwise rotation. And it has nothing to do with anything with particle electrons to it. It's just another perception of the electron, another perception of it. So instead of the Adam nature, the Adamic nature, we're moving on into living by the deepest feelings. So perception through feelings, right? This extra sensory perception that you can use, that things begin to change when you enter the wave of potentiality. So for an example, even the space between our thoughts is still a thought. And that's the funny thing as well, because thought is an element of consciousness still. Even if someone goes into the void, it's still a membrane in the walls here in the grids. But you can go further than consciousness itself. And we can speak on this a lot more later as well. There's consciousness only reaches the 6th dimension. Consciousness is limited, and consciousness is temporary. Just like everything in this world is changing, everything in this world is temporary. But you can go further than consciousness itself. So once again, consciousness is images, shapes, colors, and forms. Even if they see nothing but black, if nothing but white, or whatever it is, it's still an element of consciousness, and even thought is material. So we want to get into the immaterial, which is the spirit and the soul. So when we use this perception of being the observer and feeling without any images at all whatsoever, and you can actually feel something that's indescribable, that you can't explain, that you can't even use consciousness to explain in any way, shape, or form, because consciousness wants nothing to do with spirituality. Once this starts hitting there, which we've done in our Zooms a lot, there's abilities that start being offered. Consciousness starts offering people magic. People's forks and spoons start levitating in our Zoom classes. Books will fall off the shelves, and I say ignore it. Keep pressing on and live by the deepest feelings and don't get distracted. And we use the lotus practice for this one as well. Visualizing a lotus seed in the solar plexus. You water it with your love. You nurture it with your gratitude, like we were just doing. And the air around you starts to become thick, and the sprout grows out, metaphorically. And your etheric body and all the rest of these bodies that we have, of these 13 bodies, start to manifest. So what happens is, once the air starts becoming thick, that's the electrons having a clockwise position of a wave. Even these laser beams I have next to me with light on them, and I take my photos and I do what I do, even just staring at the laser beams alone, you can start to bend the laser beam, and everybody can see it, not just me or anybody else, and it can be recorded. A lot of these experiments I want to run through you on, but just like dust that's in the air, you could turn it into life and turn it into gold, which I'll do a demonstration with. Even you yourself, Ezekiel, and everyone else would do a gold dust demonstration, where the dust that's in the air will land on their palms, either their clothes, and it'll start to shine. No matter the circumstances, if they wash their hands before, clean their hands off, inspect them now, or anything else. And they'll also feel the air become thick around them. And once we're in this nonverbal meditation, and then we'll run it into a spiritual practice, because meditation is working with your consciousness to see that you're not consciousness, and then spiritual practice is when you are the spirit engaging with the soul, and the two are becoming one in the process, where there's an immaterial result. And then you can take counterclockwise position. Since you went clockwise and you gain life and you bring energy in, you can then push this energy out because you build enough currency for it. But you can still stay connected, so we won't waste what we built up for the cost. But I'll pause here because I said a lot.
Yeah, that's important where you said you save up here, you bring your attention, you load up your spirit, if you will, and then you can release from there. But yeah, let me pull some comments real quick. Let me see. Donna says, "Wow, that's great work right there." I think this is when you're talking about your hat and all the different, and then you went into like what you do with the dogs and everything. So that's in response to that. Did you have any comments on that, or
yes,
would you like to riff off of that?
with the dogs as well. You've seen one of my videos recently, I believe, and there's a lot that I haven't posted on there since I just got back and moved back. Were you checking out some of the information on that video?
We with the dog, right? When you were walking through.
Yeah, it was about dogs haven't eaten in a week.
Yeah, I could pull it up too, so people can also see.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. But yeah, continue.
Oh, yep. So with that as well, we do the same lifestyle. We eat alkaline here, fruits with the seeds, and very beneficial. And we even do, if the dogs haven't eaten, we haven't eaten it either. So right now, my dogs are in heat. And when they're in heat, the dogs go longer, sometimes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, depending on how many females that I got with me during the feeding.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a real powerful video, the one you're pulling up there. A lot of information given in a short period of time.
Mm-hmm. We'll watch a few minutes just because it's 7 minutes long, but I'll link it as well so people can access it.
Yeah, that's classic. I was watching a Charlie Brown Snoopy last night. Yeah, it has that music in it.
Yeah. Play some of that. Like, all right, I'm gonna play just a minute or so.
Anyway, I had a question about what happens when your dog has diarrhea after eating raw. Just like you, if you're eating an alkaline lifestyle and you start to switch over, you're gonna have diarrhea as well. You're gonna get rid of pesticides. You're gonna get rid of parasites. You're gonna get rid of mucus, worms, or whatever it is, and you're gonna have diarrhea when you transition to eating raw as well. So for the quarter legs, when I give my dog quarter legs, the skin and the fats, they're gonna puke it out, and it's gonna look like a sack. Maybe for the first day or the second day. Eventually, my dogs don't have that anymore, but eventually that'll stop to happen because their immune system will be built up as well. Remember, dogs don't eat kibble in the nature. There's no kibble out there. They're not going around looking for any super premium dog food. This is all nature. This is all natural. Nature knows more than the rest of us here. So for everyone to get the spill, plus it takes 5 to 6 days for the dog's bones to digest in their system as well. And you don't want to be stuffing food down a dog's throat over and over again. They eat until they're full. So in short, that's the basic information that you guys can have. And if you want more, you can just send me a direct message and pay $80 for a consultation that we can set up, and we'll have your dog not going to the vet, and your dog living healthy as well, and you also spending less on going to the store to feed them. You buy in bulk and get it like that. So anyway,
Yep. I can answer anybody's question to get rid of all types of stuff that they have going on with their dogs, and also with the human body as well. It's not really much of a difference, to be honest, except a dog is more acidic and a human is more prone to alkaline.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff.
It is. So, it is. You definitely.
So I haven't watched. I haven't watched the episode yet, so I'll check it out. Cool. Yeah, it's the one we did together. So.
Oh yeah, that was a powerful one there.
And then she asked, "Do you have your own channel or YouTube channel, Nico?"
Yeah, it's called The School of Mystics. There's some
School of Mystics. We'll link it right here.
Yeah,
we got a couple links coming through your way.
Yeah.
So you got that video.
And you've seen some of those videos before, probably Ezekiel.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Pioneering some experiments and making it work.
But yeah, there's some interesting stuff though. I mean, like, there's a lot of people on the space. I mean, I think it's happening slowly, but some people on this space are slowly being able to demonstrate some of these abilities, especially on video. But the thing is that that's just crazy to think about. But AI can definitely also. People aren't gonna. People are probably not gonna be able to know what's real or not for a little bit.
Absolutely. It's so true. It's so true. And they can also use it for their benefits as well, if they can program their subconscious for it by using AI for their own hack, because we didn't have that stuff back then when we started off. But we understood that this matrix simulation is artificial intelligence. Even consciousness itself is AI. Even organic alkaline food is AI, and everything's programmable completely. This whole simulation. So we did have it.
Yeah.
We're using the essence of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just getting stronger. But
Yeah.
you see, we also have. So when you were talking about the abilities and how things will start to fall off on the shelves, all that kind of stuff, she's asking, is that related to a poltergeist phenomenon, or is this happening based off of like the power of your mind? Like,
Yeah,
how come?
this is the power of the mind, which poltergeists use mind as well, because it's a mental. It's a mental. Let me see here. You still here? Because something popped up on my phone.
Yeah, I'm still here.
I was on my son's phone, so something happened. Okay, your mental, astral, and ether body, your double, your doppelganger, your clone. You can use that for poltergeists, or whenever you're building up a lot of spiritual energy, and the air around you becomes thick, and you have waves of potentiality happening here. And consciousness has an algorithm that goes counterclockwise. So there's an interference going on, and things will move, things will get thrown or slang, and you can record an experiment and see how it happens and see how it works by studying consciousness as a spiritual observer. If you study consciousness while thinking your consciousness, you end up getting sick, you end up getting hurt. I have plenty of resources to show people that tried to do it and they also back off as well. But you can study consciousness from a spiritual observer, and you're in a safe space from there. Because you have the electrons expanded out. When you expand consciousness, it's great because you can use it as a tool. When it's contracted and it's isolated, you end up becoming the tool. Like the accuser of the brethren, it pretends it's us. On our last podcast, we spoke about it. It bullies us. It dominates us. That's why I've also was inspired to do a lot of professional dog training, because dogs have consciousness, and consciousness reminds me of a dog. Sometimes I gotta put it on a tight leash, and I'll say, hey, I'm not gonna feed you consciousness. I'm not gonna pay you my life force. I'm not gonna give you my attention. I'm not gonna feed you my essence or my energy when you keep barking in my ear and want to be a wild animal like that. So I'm gonna put my consciousness on a leash, and it reminds me I can give most of my energy to the spiritual world, because it's gonna multiply it right back like an ecosystem. But every time I give it to my emotions, every time I give it to these thoughts, these images that carry shadows behind every image, these illusions and this deception, it becomes so complex when I give my energy to consciousness, and then it throws a storm back on me to suck more out of me, like a succubus, like an incubus, like a shadow in the middle of the night. So
Yeah.
dog training like that. There was a study, Ezekiel, with a guy named Duncan McDougall, and he weighed babies on the 8th day, and he's seen that they gained 15 to 20 grams of weight, the same weight of a hummingbird. And he went off the religious text, circumcision of the 8th day, the prophets naming the baby on the 8th day, a lot of 8th day things that we could keep going on and on about. And when they died as adults, they lost 15 to 20 grams as well. And tried weighing animals and also dogs. There was no weight gain or weight decrease on even prior days or after days during these whole entire experiments and tests. Duncan McDougall, that conducted the test here, was to see if we can do anything, way, shape, or form to study if a human being has a soul or a spirit, which we know. And once the soul is on the 8th day, they receive a spirit on that 8th day as well. Also, Hitler had a bunch of babies that were on the 7th day. The Yellow Faith Hat movement does this with Dalai Lama as well. They all know about this, but Hitler will have a bunch of week-old babies in his geometry buildings, and he will have his soldiers commit suicide before the baby turns 8 day old, and then their spirit will merge with their consciousness, and it would transfer into the baby's soul like a sub-personality, and the baby's like, I remember my past life, but it was really these soldiers, like everyone remembers their past lives in those areas, and then they'll take over the baby's spirit, dominate it, and it's cheaper that way. Just like in the military, it's cheaper to have a soldier that already went through basic training in AIT than enlist a new soldier in. So that's the way that they're franchising those. But bringing that up with the purpose and the power of a soul. So once there is a spirit that sits 1.5 feet above the human head, there's also a secondary consciousness, which also separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom. Because before we go to human being, it's just like a chimp or an ape until they receive a soul or a spirit from the spiritual world that separates us from the animal kingdom and how we develop.
Yeah. It was also interesting too, like, I mean, that goes into naming, you know, like
Does
if you're gonna be a spirit or soul or like have a divine aspect of yourself, your name has to be intentional as well, like who you are, because then
Mhm.
that then, or your body then knows like what it's meant to do. Like the name
Yes.
has meaning.
Oh
So if
yeah.
you assign a name to something or to yourself, you know, that's kind of what you stand about.
It even means name in the Greek is idem, edom, which means identity, expression, character of, and that there exactly. It definitely does. And the numerology behind it, real numerology, should be studied again and looked at on the 8th day, and the zodiac signs on the 8th day, because then people's birthday changed, the day that they were really birthed, because they should be counted for in the womb with their primary consciousness to how many days old that baby is. And instead of it saying it's 0 days old or 1 day old when the baby's out, just like 13 months in a year and everything else in the lunar cycles, how everything's been twisted up. Or just like today's date is really 1017, and the prophet Jesus was really here 1000 years ago. And or the Constitution, when the Constitution was made, they added the year 1000 since on the year 928. Then they added the year 1929, from 928 to 1929. So that's why a lot of things happen for people that love the Constitution and they love the amendments and they try to enforce their rights about what's actually going on. And when people are being policed by the governmental system and the Supreme Court that's not holding justice to the Constitution or the amendments, it's because it's coded under the ether, under the time, and the time has now been marked and added on since 928 to year 1929. 1930, and they don't know that it's under these codes. When the Constitution is quoted, there's a different agenda and a different meaning behind the time zones, thinking people have to live sovereign or buy back their social security number or even do any of that, when it's really just about the ether and free energy with the attack spin on, covered up of the pyramids, our own energy structure. We built pyramids after, because we have the pyramided energy structure as well. All pyramids had a flat top to it. They never had any triangle roof to it. This is all added on later for the cover-ups, of course, but everything's being exposed, and this can also be observed within oneself from the ether, the time. I remember when I first was looking at the ether and looking at consciousness as secondary, and I go, what is that? So many times, different revelations would hit me. This is Chronos, this is time, and all types of encounters. And then
Are you
can
looking at this from an out of body experience, or is this like or how are you observing
it's
this?
observation that anybody can see.
Or
More
just observation without seeing, right? It's kind of like you feel,
but you
like
can
you feel and know.
you know the static in the air, that static,
Yeah,
all that energy.
yeah, like we talked about the episode. Yeah,
Yep. And some people would say those are floaters in my eyeball, and I say no, this is floaters in your eyeball. I have to explain it to them, and it's simple
Yeah.
through observation that's been sitting in front of everyone's face the whole entire time. In the Bible, it says Moses wrote the Bible or the Torah off of the back of Hashem. And we're like, okay. Then it says in Revelations, he got it from angels and everything else. And it's speaking about this veil here. So this is a true experiment that I've done where I had my girl follow these ambient energy, these negative ions, those biophotons, that static that's in the air. I said, follow it down with a pen and a pad and follow where it does. And we notice that it stops and it teleports in these little grid lines, these matrix grids. And when they do, they teleport and they go somewhere else, and then we collided the particles. I worked with people colliding them over the phones, and it just got real wild and crazy and cool, but seeing what it does. So, and how there are electrons carrying different components to them, creating neutrinos and different things. But anyway, with this, she ended up writing pictograph that you see on petroglyph before the Dead Sea Scrolls, hieroglyphs. And we matched them up, and we're like on Google Images and using different sites, and it was just mind blowing. She's a person that's never read the Bible her whole entire life, anything at all about any of this stuff. So I had her do these experiments a lot, and it was wild that this energy, this static that's in the air, this veil here, this matrix grids, and the light particles that are going through them, are moving in movements that decode pictograph and pictures. So I also have this recent picture when I was using my laser light, light as a dimension, and taking burst photo shots, and I turned the light off and it was in a dark room, and I have all this energy sparkles everywhere. It looks like a nebula of space. Let me see. I'm going to show it here. See if it'll pop up on your phone. Pop up on there very clearly. On here, I think it'll work pretty clear here. Let's see.
Yeah.
So that's real energy, and it looks like space. I took this photo a few days ago. This is not even zoomed in. Let me zoom in something here just a little bit.
You can text me too. I'll put it up.
That awesome.
So, picture.
Oh yeah, and you can see when you zoom into it, you can also start to see again hieroglyphs and pictographs. And I'm like, how do you get yourself in such a way where you can understand why is it coded over here and it's moving so fast? That part I don't get or know how to do because of the algorithm. But I know that when people go into spiritual practices or meditations, they experience this as well. But it's also tangible yet right here as well, and it's flowing through, and we translate it different ways, of course. But playing with it.
Mm-hmm. And for people just watching too, we'll get into some exercises or some demonstrations towards the end.